Dave, here are my keys, and I want to get into Arizona a little bit. I watched all of Arizona Dallas. I watched all of Arizona against the Giants. I've watched too much Arizona the last 2 weeks. But here's my keys to beating Arizona. You got to stop James Conner. Because man, if he gets rumbling, you got to go low on James Conner because he's a big physical back. You got to dial up the rush on Dobbs. You need to eliminate Arizona's explosives, something the Giants did well in the second half and won the game, something Dallas didn't do well. You got to defend Arizona's two good tight ends. Ertz and McBride are fantastic. I really like their rookie cornerback, Catrell Clark, and you got to get Kazir White blocked. You did a tweet earlier this week that I will gladly admit that I'm stealing from my 95.7 The Game pregame show at the Hilton with Lo Neal preparation that I'm doing. I saw it, and it was like 9 paragraphs, and it was some awesome stuff. Really, really good breakdown. In fact, Dave's got 100,000 followers on Twitter. Become one of Dave's followers on Twitter if you're not. I say that. Dave doesn't need followers. I probably need followers. But Dave, go ahead. Give us your breakdown on what it was a lengthy tweet, but you really went into great detail on every aspect of the Cardinals. So you got a lot of thoughts on them. Give me 2 or 3. Give me the highlight reel of that tweet in your mind as far as keys to winning on Sunday for the Niners.
So I'm looking at it right now. I just pulled it up, but I think that your key is the biggest one because I think, Arizona, the efficiency stats have them as the 10th best team in football right now. So they have overperformed the expectation. And we saw them beat Dallas 28-16. They're in the game with Washington until the very end in week 1. And then they probably should have beaten the New York Giants, jumped out to a huge lead and then lost because they blew it in the second half. So we probably saw the overperforming and then we saw who Arizona might end up being over the long run, just because this team is devoid of star talent. They might have some feisty players. They might have some up and coming players, but in general, we're not seeing Kyler Murray. We're not seeing Budda Baker. Both of those guys are hurt. So in general, this is going to be one of those scrappy teams. And you have to stop a scrappy team from being able to impose its will physically. And that usually happens through running the football. That's how Arizona beat the Dallas Cowboys. They rushed for 222 yards and over 7 yards a pop. And you said James Conner. I mean, he's the guy that can leave his imprint on an opponent because he weighs 233 pounds. He's one of the biggest featured backs in the NFL. He might be the biggest featured back now because in general, I think backs are getting a little bit bigger. I think the 49ers model now is, okay, hey, let's have these guys that are 215, 220 plus to kind of punish these downsizing defenses, but they don't have anybody who's 233. And Conner runs well and moves well for being 233. So it's almost throwback size back to the 80s, back to the 90s. And I don't think Dallas, which is a pass rush oriented team, was really built to handle it. They also surprised them with Joshua Dobbs running. Joshua Dobbs is not afraid to run. Against the Giants, he trucked the guy on his way into the end zone. They thought he was going to slide, and he ran in. But a 44-yard run to open the game from Joshua Dobbs. James Conner running his tail off. And again, 233 pounds is tough to handle, especially for some of these downsizing defenses. All of that kind of set up a platform for Joshua Dobbs to go 17 of 21 with relative ease against the Cowboys. So you can't have the opposing quarterback, who a lot of people had never heard of until this Sunday. You can't have that opposing quarterback delivering that easy and that efficient of a box score. And the way that you stop that from happening is stopping the run. So this is going to be the big test for the 49ers this week. I think Arizona's offensive line has struggled in pass protection, especially up the middle, but they've been good in run blocking. But there's a lot to get there if you're able to force them into passing situations. So stop the run, go have some fun. That's what the 49ers like to say. That has never been more true than this weekend.
We got a great donation here from Mr. Reason. He says, Kruger and Lombardi, thank you both for your amazing balance. The common thread is effort on the homework to deliver a solid analysis. We're trying. That's for sure. Dave and I are trying to cover the story fairly.
Are you going to go get a lobster dinner or something?
Seriously.
Yeah,
I know, man. I don't know. I don't know about that. One of the things that I loved in your breakdown, and I was amazed watching him, Michael Wilson, the former Stanford product, is really intriguing. And you were talking about explosives. He had close to a 70-yard reception And he's a really explosive player. I didn't realize he's a good sized wide receiver, but he's also fast. And then you mix in Rondale Moore and Hollywood Brown, and suddenly there's some real speed, and explosives have to be a major concern in this game. How do you think the Niners match up on the corner? Do you expect that we're going to see the newest 49er in the mix here, the former Cowboy Brown? Is he going to wind up playing in this game?
Yeah. So I don't know about Anthony Brown playing in this game because I think that might still be coming off that Achilles. I don't know if he'll be active or how the 49ers are going to balance that out. But I do know that you're absolutely right about the diversity that we see within Arizona's receiving core from a size perspective. And, we're also seeing a little bit of, Shanahan-esque stuff to where Rondale Moore took a handoff the last game. And he's fast, right? This is 4.3 speed out of Purdue. But he's small. Hollywood Brown is small. These are they're between 5'7" and 5'9". Then you got Michael Wilson, who's 6'2". Then you have some of your tight ends on this football team that bring more size. So they got this size diversity there. And then they also are trying to run a little bit of positionless skill position stuff, and that can help spark the run game, which has been good. Number 3 overall efficiency run game for Arizona. So we'll see how the 49ers combat this. The general truth is that all this gimmicky stuff, let me rephrase that. Effective plays that don't look like gimmicks can start looking a whole lot like gimmicks if you're getting your ass kicked up front, right? And the 49ers defensive line has been awesome so far. And I think their defensive line is better suited to stop the run than a defensive line like Dallas's, which is just pin your ears back, a high boom or bust kind of defensive line, right? High risk, high reward kind of defensive line. I think the 49ers, especially with Eric Armstead in the middle, with how much of a stalwart he is commanding those run blocks, I think they're a much more stable commodity that can make a team like Arizona look a whole lot worse. And again, that starts with stopping the run. No matter how creatively the Cardinals try to attack it with Rondale Moore taking handoffs, or whether it be that or James Conner trying to bruise himself into the line, I think the 49ers are a team that's much more built to stop that balanced brand of football. And we'll see, because this is going to be their biggest test against the run game so far.
One more on the Cardinals. Jonathan Gannon's their head coach. First year head coach, comes over from Philadelphia. He's a defensive guy. Under Gannon, and I'm taking this right from your tweet, Cardinals have the second lowest blitz rate in the league, 12.5%. So it's going to be a different, if they go with that and they stay consistent with that and they don't blitz and they drop, 7 or 8 into coverage and make Brock be accurate. How's this going to be a different challenge for Purdy coming off a week where the Giants gave him defined reads and tried to speed him up, and he handled it, like a veteran? This week he may see the opposite. He may have to be really extra accurate, but the Cardinals, it sounds like, are going to try to get it done with their front four.
Yeah, well, then they run the 3-4, and they've got a couple scrappy edge rushers that, once again, you're going to watch this game. I think a lot of fans will, and they'll be like, I don't recognize anybody.
Dennis Gardeck or something.
Yeah. So, you've got Dennis Gardeck coming off one side, and then Victor Dimukeji coming off the other side. I hope I pronounced that right, so I'm going to have to take a look in their pronunciation guide. But those are the 2, 3, 4 outside linebackers that are going to be coming off the edge. They both have 3 sacks apiece so far this year. So Arizona has generated some pressure from those guys. Where they haven't done well, especially against the run, is with the 3 down linemen up front. And I think that's where the 49ers can really make their hay, because we know that Spencer Burford has struggled a little bit. He's going to be matched up with a down lineman, and the Cardinals haven't been impressive as far as that goes. I think their linebacker and their safety play has been solid. I don't think their outside cornerback play has been all that great. And it always comes down to, and I don't know if there's a team in the league that can match the 49ers mono as far as firepower goes. It always comes down to the 5 eligibles in the matchups, right? And the 49ers just have more firepower than any defense in the league when it comes to the 5 eligibles. So if they can protect decently well, and if Purdy does his job playing point guard, and I do not mean that in a derogatory fashion, Purdy himself has called himself a point guard in the past. If he does the job there, the 49ers should have the advantage, right? And maybe in this game, it's leveraging that advantage you have on the outside, because the cornerback play hasn't been great for Arizona, making them shade another player to help on against Ayuk, if assuming he plays, or Deebo Samuel, and then you beat him with Christian McCaffrey over the middle. It just depends on how Arizona plays chess. because how they play chess is going to determine the move that you make if you're Brock Purdy and Kyle Shanahan. And I think the 49ers just have too many answers potentially for Arizona, assuming the Cardinals cannot rush the passer the way that you need to disrupt the 49ers.